So we humans created a thing. We've been trying to perfect it since some genius thought of it some time ago. It was supposed to be the next big thing, and it has been. It has changed the way the world works, and it's shaping the world. It's shaped the world. It's still shaping the world. But there are and have been serious concerns about this technology that worry us all. We are worried to death. And even though we've been told not to worry about it, we're still being told it is safe and ultimately useful for the entire human race, even though it could possibly destroy us all. And of course, I'm talking about nuclear energy. You didn't see that coming. But think about it. We have this new technology. See if you can see the comparisons here. That was so unknown when they developed it. I'm talking about nuclear energy. They didn't know if the world would catch on fire when they used it for the first time. It might blow up the earth. They didn't know, but they developed it anyway. And guess what? It has put millions of people out of jobs, displaced people and other tech that came before it. And it just still scares the bejesus out of us that we are at the end of the world because of this technology. And meanwhile, you're worried because you think AI is going to make better music than you. Well, welcome to episode 101. We are in the second 100 of our podcast here, and welcome to the Make Music Income podcast, where we talk about all kinds of ways to make music income and things that might threaten that music income. Sync licensing for TV, films, gaming, micro sync licensing for YouTube and presentations, micro streaming, music streaming to Spotify, music publishing and royalties, music production income, being a music artist and those incomes, how is that going to be affected by AI? Music jobs in the church, music jobs at school, many other kinds of music income we talk about here on the channel. Of course, my name, if you didn't know, is Eric Copeland, and over the course of my career, I've been a composer, an arranger, a producer, an artist, a songwriter, a background singer, a music career consultant, a music teacher, a keyboardist, a church music director, and a music marketer, so many things. All these things, and I still do, to be honest, most of these things, depending on the day or the year. But I have made all of this music income inside and outside the walls of the traditional music industry, and now without and now with traditional music education. I've supported my family with music jobs for over 23 years now and made income from music for almost 40 years. Now, most of you listening or watching this podcast are likely not going to be this dumb and try to make your whole living off music. But maybe, just maybe, you might like to make some money from your music. And today we're going to talk about a possible threat to that, or is it? My hope is that this video and all my podcasts help you make the music that you love and make music income. Today, we are going to dive into your deepest fears about AI and how it is going to affect you and your music. This is what we're focused on. I have some answers today. At least they are my answers, and at least they're my answers for now, because this is going to be a changing topic for a long time. So on my podcast today, my co-hosts are the folks watching live. We're live right now as of the recording of this podcast on YouTube. And if you have questions and or comments folks, I will try and read them if they apply to what I'm talking about and to our audience. So go ahead and shout out your thoughts. We're going to get into a lot today, so be ready. First, I want to talk about my week. It has been a pretty normal week for me here. Getting up every morning, jumping directly into either client work. There's a lot of releases going on right now for artists, and last weekend was Easter, so I have a lot of folks in the Christian and gospel space, so they were doing special Easter releases and videos that we were releasing all through that Holy Week and into Easter. And then this week, we've got new artists getting ready to, or not new artists, but we've got artists getting ready to release new releases. We kind of waited till after the Easter holiday was over, and now they're going to be releasing, I think, starting in about a week. I don't think anybody's releasing today. Usually we release on Fridays. That's kind of the universal release day. So a lot of that has been happening. I've been mixing a song for an artist and going back and forth with her on her vocals. I had a strange thing happen to me this week that I woke up yesterday with a song in my head, and not only just in my head, I had been dreaming about it. I had been in my dream singing the song, or playing the song, I should say, or hearing the song. I can't remember what I was doing in the dream. I just know that I was hearing this arrangement. Of all things, it was an arrangement of the Little Drummer Boy. Parum-pum-pum-pum, that song. And I had this jazzy kind of thing, and it developed all day for me yesterday. But I got up and went and got my customary bottle of water and then directly walked to the piano, and everybody in the house had gone. And so I started banging this arrangement out on the piano. And then another arrangement of another one of my songs that I want to work on. Very strange morning. I don't usually get up and go right to the piano and start playing. I know maybe some of you do, but for me, that's usually I'm more of a get my water and stare out into the abyss until my brain wakes up. But that's what happened yesterday. Very odd, but very cool. And that now has developed all day. I just left notes on my phone all day about all that stuff. What else? I'm teaching 25 students, a new class of students at the school I teach at, and it's online. So this is an online class. Really enjoying that. It's very much like teaching you here and talking to the camera many times. The only difference is I see their faces sometimes, those who elect to put themselves on the camera. And it's very much like Zooms or whatever we do here on the channel. But that's very fun. We're just getting into Pro Tools today. We've been doing introductions, and hopefully you want to challenge. Try to getting 25 different students from around the United States on different computers in different areas with different knowledge of computer skill, trying to get them on Pro Tools, trying to get Pro Tools installed on their computer. It's quite a job. Luckily, I have a killer teaching assistant, Jalen. Shout out to Jalen, who, if I didn't have him, it would be a rough thing, because I can do it. I know how to install Pro Tools, but man, you have to really work almost individually with each one of these students and get them up on Pro Tools. And Pro Tools, Avid and Pro Tools and iLock and all that mess. It's not easy. And it is a lot. So that's been part of my week this week. That's been a little challenging. And at the same time, I'm teaching them lessons during that night, and we're trying to get different students on. So we're kind of in the whole history of music and history of recording and history of Pro Tools. And so tonight we actually open up Pro Tools and start to look at it. So yeah. Been writing and arranging a lot of jazz and country and Christmas and other genres this week. Been doing a lot of things. I do want to tell you one thing that is important is I also developed a poll for this very podcast. Now, whether you are watching it or listening to it, I would love for you to take that poll. It's already, for those watching now, in the description below, and you can find the link to it. And if you're watching if you're listening to this, whether you're watching or listening, doesn't matter. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, it will be in the description. Do not go to the description now while you're driving, but please do go down and take that short poll. It's just a handful of questions, but I'm just trying to find out what people like, what they don't like, and how I can make this podcast better, because I like doing it. It's fun. I don't always do it live like this. Sometimes it's a conversation with someone, and I'll put the podcast together in Logic and edit it up. And it's a little different because I add music and things to the podcast, the audio only podcast. So would love your thoughts about that in the poll. We'll talk about that again in a minute. So speaking of my co-host, let's see who is in the house today and say hello. Fabio is in the house. Fabulous to see you, Fabio. Thanks for being here. Miss Reynolds is in the house. Tigirl, good to see you. Thanks for being here today. Wolfgang is in the house. And Tigirl says, just be careful when the abyss stares back. Yes, it does. It does stare back. It's scary out there. So many animals out behind our house. Well, they're always watching us. All right, so now it's time for the news. Okay, hopefully you were able to hear that. Today in the news, I want to talk about an article I found that relates to our conversation today. And the conversation today is about AI and that kind of thing. But it's an article entitled Billie Eilish, Nicki Minaj, Stevie Wonder, and More Musicians Demand Protection Against AI. And so this is interesting in the fact that we just went through this, right, with the whole music, television and film and all those people striking in Hollywood about this. And now we are seeing musicians start to go down this same place. They have more than 200 high-profile musicians have signed an open letter calling for protections against the predatory use of artificial intelligence that mimics human artists' likenesses, voices, and sound. And so a lot of people are signing this, even the estates of Frank Sinatra and Bob Marley. So this letter, which was issued by the Artists' Rights Alliance, makes the broad demand that technology companies pledge not to develop AI tools that undermine or replace human songwriters and artists. I'm telling you, we're not the only ones a little freaked out about what is happening with AI and now music. AI is already kind of taken over in the art space, and now it's about to take over in the video space, and the music space will be next. Personally, I am not that threatened by what's out there with music right now. We'll talk about that in a bit. But this letter does not call for an outright ban on AI in music production. It just says we're just wanting the responsible use of technology. Music producers have used artificial intelligence tools in a variety of ways in recent years. Yeah, we've been using Melodyne for years. You tell me that's not AI, robot technology? But AI was even used to isolate John Lennon's vocals from an old demo track and use them to create a new Beatles song. To me, that's not like a bad use. They did that on purpose, and they have those rights as the Beatles and all that kind of stuff. But this is concern over AI being used to write songs and to do different things. And so all of this was at the center, much of this was at the center of the contract negotiations with the strikes that were happening in LA and ChatGPT. And by the way, we were going to talk to GiPiT a little later today about this. But there's been court proceedings about all of this stuff. So it is a big deal. This is something that is not just being talked about here on this channel, but it's being talked about in the news. It's being talked about everywhere. And so this is something that we're not alone in having some kind of, trepidation about what is happening with AI. So, and music. And so we are all going to be in this together. And already you can see that there are cases being filed. But I have some answers today that I think are going to help us. If you are new to the channel, you might not know, but we have a lot of free stuff. And one of those free things that I would love for you to be part of is streams. We have a free, vibrant, and original information space. I'm getting ready to build my teaching space. You're going to hear about it in a few weeks or in the next week. I've got a new course that's coming out. And once that second course comes out, then there's going to be a different way that I am going to be teaching this material. You can get the courses, but you can also join in a every other week Zoom to ask questions and learn. So that's kind of what we've been doing at Streams. Streams has been around for a couple months now. It's been mostly just a free space, but eventually it's going to become a teaching space. It's going to become a place where you can learn on a weekly basis and even come to classes. So you'll want to get into Streams. It's free. Just go to musicincomestreams.com. Come on in. The water's fine. So that's free. We also have so many other things free at our website. Just go to makemusicincome.com/free. Find our ebooks and our courses there that are free. All right. So I do have some more news. And why not play the news theme again? Let's see. Why not? Bum, 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 bum. Okay, so the next thing is not that much of a news item. It's news for me, but that is that I have a poll about this podcast. I mentioned it earlier. If you're with us, if you haven't, please go and take the poll that is in the description, either of this video or the podcast, and make sure you tell us what you like about the podcast. It's not very long and just gives you a chance. It's very hard to get feedback from the podcast, especially the audio podcast, because it's not like this here on YouTube where people are talking to me as we're doing this thing and they're leaving comments and things like this. And by the way, I'm talking to you, person watching this right now, live. You are a co-host and you have a responsibility to not only like this video, ding, but also to make sure that you take this poll and also talk here in the chat so I can get questions from you, because there's going to be some stuff you may or may not agree with as we get into the stuff here in just a minute. But take the podcast poll, because that'll really help me know what you like and what you don't like about the podcast as we continue into the second 100 podcasts of this channel. And secondly, I want to let you know about something that's brand new that I've been quietly talking about. I haven't been talking about it yet here on the podcast, but now that I have a chance, I want to talk about something called the Ultimate Composers Mastermind, and I want to share this with you as well. And this is on another page. But the Ultimate Composers Mastermind is a 10-week Composers Mastermind, but this is different than any mastermind I've done yet, because you're not going to join me that will be listening to your compositions and talking to you about your work, your writing, but I'm going to have at least 5, maybe up to 8 different special guest composers that are going to come in each week, and they are going to you can show your music to them. You can get helpful feedback from them for your composing. And this will be, I will tell you, this was not going to be for beginning composers. I do have another mastermind I'll be doing soon for beginning composers, or maybe a class. But this will be for intermediate to advanced composers only, because I really want to dive deep, and I want everybody to be kind of on the same page. But I really think that this is one of those things that really helps composers grow. And I think people who have been part of this, as you'll see in a minute, have really loved it. But so far, the guest composers include Stephen Malin of the Video Game Music Alliance. I think I misspelled that. Should be Alliance. Jameis and Nathan Jones, who we just had on the show just a few weeks ago. And by the way, Stephen Malin will be, I think, next week's guest on the podcast. We have Robert Sterling, who, if you don't know who Robert Sterling is, he is a longtime Nashville composer and producer and arranger and makes musicals, and he's just been a great person for me to come to know over the last 10 to 20 years. And I even talked him into doing an album of his own original music, which he won't forgive me for some reason. But he's a fantastic voice, and he writes a lot of books on composition and things like that. So he'll be here. Stephen Tallamy from Spitfire Audio. You might know Stephen, and he's been on this channel before, and so has Ed Hartman. Way back in the first of this channel, I interviewed Ed Hartman, who has had lots of stuff put in movies and TV and film. And so still talking to some others. I have actually one ace up my sleeve who will do it. So if I get the right amount of composers, then I will probably bring this last guy in as a killer composer, known. And I mean, this guy is, he is a composer, has his own YouTube channel as well. So these guests will appear every week or every other week, and maybe we'll have special challenges. So I want you to join this 10-week mastermind. You can see the cost here is $375 for the 10 weeks. Feel free to, again, this is not going to be for everybody. I only have about 6 to 10 slots, and one of them I think is filled. So I've just started this. Go to this page. I'll put the link is already down in the description, and then you can choose if you want to be part of this or not. Again, it's not going to be for everybody. So if you think this is for you, I would love to have you part of it. Okay. So let's go on with the show here, and let's start now to get into what we're going to be talking about today, which is this title that I had from the start, which is somewhat controversial. I hope I'm not going to lose my voice. Somewhat controversial. Music versus AI. And what I meant by this is there's a lot of people in our Discord, in other groups. I hear a lot of chatter that people are very, very concerned that, and you can already see that stars are concerned. If the stars are concerned, then independent musicians should be concerned as well. But people are concerned. People are concerned that AI is going to be a very disruptive force. And maybe it will, but disruptive forces have come along in music for a long time. You could go back to the invention of the pipe organ. That was a destructive force in church music. Before that, it had been string players and orchestral people. And when the organ came along, we're talking hundreds, if not thousands, of people that could possibly be put out of work back in that time that were playing for these church services every week. And so that was something that the phonograph, when it came along in the mid to late 1800s, suddenly live wasn't the only place to hear music anymore. There was a way to hear music just by cranking it up and playing it. And then it became the more modern phonograph that ruled the 20th century, and everybody had to deal with that. Same with radio, same with television, all of these things. Same with MTV, same with the CD, same with cassette tape before the CD, and then the CD, and then the MP3, and now streaming. All of that has been disruptive to everyone who's in music. COVID, talk about a disruption. COVID came along and put everybody just about out of music business for a while, except those people who could continue to do it online. So this is just another in a long line of disruptors. And I'm here to tell you, as much as you think that AI is going to change everything, and I have people yelling and screaming at me, and you see the media constantly telling us that AI is going to disrupt everything, and maybe they're not wrong. But I think the first thing we have to do in this is, I think first we kind of have to stop listening to the noise, and we have to stop listening to the doomsayers. We have to stop listening to the people who are telling us that this is going to completely change everything and you likely should just quit because AI is going to make better music than you. The media is making you think more about this than you really need to, just like they do everything. And I'm not a media hater. I'm just saying that this is a popular. Obviously, I'm doing a podcast on it today, so obviously this is a popular thing to talk about and But I'm not here to doomsay. I'm not here to talk about that this is something that you should be afraid of. I'm actually going to try to do the opposite today. Naysayers and fearmongers and doomsayers are out to scare you. Don't let them do that. It's your responsibility, just like with politics, just like with bad news and news itself. It's your responsibility how much you lean into that, how much you absorb of that. You can just put it down, go over to your piano, go over to your guitar. If you feel like unplugging the internet, unplug the internet and play your stuff. You can't be hurt by this if you don't allow yourself to. You can reinvent yourself. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But AI is not the end-all, be-all scary thing. And so don't feel that way. And if you don't agree with me, I would love to know in the comments what you think. And I know that there are going to be people who don't agree with me. And you know what? I don't care. Because I know I'm a cockeyed optimist for a lot of things, and my wife would say that about most things. I am that way. I am very, very optimistic, but I am also not scared of AI because I know I can do more with what I have than and guess what? Change has always come. As a matter of fact, in the comments here, Tigrill says, get rid of all this other stuff. Tigrill says, embrace change. Change is the only constant in life. Change has been a constant in music. It's going to continue to be a constant in music. So for those of you who think that this is a little bit apple pie in the sky, that I am too positive in the face of AI, well, you can certainly say that in the chat or the comments. That's fine. But I do want to talk a little bit about something that probably then you really won't like this comment, how AI can be helpful in your music. I think this is something that we don't talk about that much, and that is how much we can use AI as a tool. And it's already having an impact on us, and it's already having a positive impact for me and my clients. I am using AI graphics stuff and AI video stuff. As soon as I can get my hands on video stuff for AI, I'll be using that. Because, see, I have to make music videos for people. I have to make a lot of marketing things for people. I got to do a cover right when I get off of here because we're putting an artist's release up, her first release. And so got to do that cover. And I made the cover because of the specific nature of what the song is with a program called Leonardo.ai. By the way, don't go there unless you have time and to spend, because you will get hooked, because it is an amazing site. But it's all for artwork. Doesn't really do much video yet, a little bit of like movement of video. But I am telling you that it's pretty incredible, the artwork you can make with that. And you know what? I don't think that this is putting anybody out of business. I think this is just a partner that I use to create things in Photoshop, just like I use stock sites like Envato to get pictures and get video from. And right now, I would say my videos are probably about 75% stock places and about 25% AI, specifically this one site that I'm using. And it is really changed the game and is drawing eyes to videos. And by the way, Photoshop itself, which is the program I use for things, and Premiere and all those, they've been using AI-like things for years. You can take yourself off the thing. You can take your picture off the background. I used it for my thumbnail today. I had a picture that I took of me, and I pulled myself off the background through some trick of Photoshop. You may or may not think that's AI, but it feels like AI because it's been around for a while. And there's been a lot of tools in music too that have been around for a while that we've been using like this, like Melodyne, like Auto-Tune, many things. Like I've been using Waves plugins for 20 years that tell me how to master correctly and show me the frequencies that I need to fix and how much it needs to take out to keep the dynamic range where I want it. These tools, they may or may not be artificial intelligence, but I'm telling you, they are tools that have been assistants for us, and I've been using since the late 90s, if not the early 2000s. So we've had these kind of tools already. These are just better tools, and they're so much better that it's scaring people. Because I've felt that Melodyne, especially when it can do some of the stuff that now they're saying that AI can do, where they can take tracks out and pull tracks out, which is kind of messy, and it kind of does. But Melodyne has been doing that kind of thing for a while, for like years, like maybe 5 years or 10 years. And what about Splice and Arcade, which basically make music for us by just us putting a chord in or pressing a button or doing certain things? What about FL Studio and Logic, which come preloaded with tricks and samples and loops and come with all sorts of stuff that make music simple to create? It doesn't take much talent if you're just starting out and you have Logic. You can I literally have just pulled some things together in 3 tracks and they go right together just because Logic fits them together in its way. So AI is already having an impact, and I think it could only be better for us, possibly. Now, I don't see that I'm going to use it that much, and we'll get into my personal compositions and how I think I'm going to be or not going to be using AI in a minute. But first, I want to talk about probably the low-hanging fruit and the thing that probably scares people the most, and that is stock music. A lot of people that watch this particular channel and listen to this podcast create music for stock music libraries, and I even have a course on it called The Stock Market. And we'll talk about that in a second, but it's definitely an issue for stock music. Now, what I have heard so far, I can't remember the name of the AI program. I think it's called Suno or something that people have been talking about in our Discord, and I've gone and listened to it. Yes, it makes music, but it's very common denominator, like a version of music. You know how when you watch an AI movie or an AI video or an AI picture, and it's so fantastical, and a lot of it is just, it looks odd. It's a movie made by a computer, but it's been pulled from all these different sources, and it just looks kind of dirty. I mean, it's like all the images are morphing and growing, and they look like a thing, but they don't look like a thing. AI video looks a lot like my dreams. I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like AI, when I watch an AI video that somebody's made, and that stuff is creepy, and it just feels, it is a video. It literally is a video, and sometimes the video quality is actually good, but it's also actually weird. And there's just something off about it. Something, I'm not going to say the word human, but it's just something not right about it. Even though it's interesting, it's just not quite right. And so I think the music that I'm hearing, especially that you would compare to stock music, the music that I'm hearing it's all there. There's drums, there's bass, there's other stuff, but it's very, very hard to pull out the things that you're listening to. What are the drums actually doing? And if you solo these tracks, you'll hear that the drums are just kind of drum-ish. They're made, but they're not made. The hi-hat is not separate. The cymbals and all that kind of stuff are, and the kick and snare and all that is just kind of meshed together. It's kind of very, very messy. And so I'm not. And I know it's going to get better. I know it is. I know it can, because already you have things like Easy Bass, Easy Keys, Easy this and Easy that. You have all of these programs that make music easy for anybody to make. Listen, if you're scared about music or at all concerned that AI music is going to be taking over for you who thinks of yourself as a serious composer, let me tell you something. They've been doing that for 10 years or more with these programs that are letting people who can't make music make music. And there may be some of you watching this and thinking, hey, watch what you're saying. I'm a person like that. I need those programs to make music, and that's okay when you're starting. But I don't think that this is something that is right now at this point able to replace the people who are actually making music, because I think that Pawn 5, Audio Jungle, and Sparks, by the way, they have been training AI for a while now. If you don't know, if you're not involved in Pawn 5, Audio Jungle, or Audio Sparks, or any of the stock music libraries like I am, and probably many of the people watching are, this software, they have been saying, and Pawn 5 just sent us money and said, we're now training you on AI. Thanks. Audio Jungle and Audio Sparks at least let you opt out of it. And I'll talk about how I'm dealing with this in a minute. But they are now training AI, or at least their version of AI. You can take AI from a certain kind of technology. Like people take GiPiT and put it in their a version of ChatGPT. They can get the open code and they can put it in their sites so that they can use a personal assistant in their sites. There's all sorts of these personal AI assistants coming out now. And so those are out. But I think, and it's my thought, that AI and stock are going to kind of come together. And that these stock sites, y'all, they're not going anywhere. Envato, Shutterstock, Adobe, they are not going to go away quietly. They are going to be around for a while. And I think we have the possibility here, if we hang tight in these stock libraries, to be part of a revolution where our music is being used maybe even more, especially if you're doing odd genres like I do, like classical or jazz or something. They're going to need things to train on or things to pull from. And if they can get I talked about this with in my interview with Steve early this week, last podcast. If they can get the money flowing right, if they can figure out how to pay, money has always been a weird thing to figure out. Do you exactly know how BMI and ASCAP work? How exactly you get paid from this television, and that the right money comes to you for a play? What is the play? How do you know how much you're getting paid? What about streaming? Do you absolutely know how all that money works? Eventually, there's going to be a model where AI is paying the authors it's training from, and there's going to be an income stream there. And guess what? Unfortunately, we likely might not know how that exactly works penny to penny, but it is going to be pennies and dollars and things that are coming in from these stock sites. And I think you're going to see that there's going to be I think stock sites are a perfect meld with AI. When you put those search things together, and you can search for exactly what you want and find it. That's what we do with stock anyway. That's why stock sites exist, is because we want to get that perfect meld of getting what we want and finding it where we want. And if AI is another way to get what we want, it only makes sense for Shutterstock, Envato, Adobe, all of these companies, Pawn 5, Motion Array, Artlist, all of these companies, to integrate AI into their systems and figure a way to pay their authors. People are making tens of thousands of dollars on Artlist. People are making lots of money on Motion Array. It only makes sense for them to put the AI tech in there, integrate it in, and then everybody wins. So I think there is maybe still hope for stock musicians or trainers, whatever you want to call yourself. But I think you're going to see a meld of these two things. And that is going to be what stock is. So I think there's a lot of comments here about this. So let's see what people are saying. So Tiger says, a whole industry was built on autotune. Yep. Richard Erickson says, I got to be honest, it's a tool, but to compete with it, you have no chance. Instead, embrace it, learn it, navigate through it. I don't think you have to compete. I don't think it's about competing. I just think it's like saying, are you competing with Melodyne? Are you competing with, Splice? Are you competing with all these other tools that are out there? It sounds odd to try to say I'm going to compete with it. You're a human. You don't have to compete with a computer. This is not the steam engine versus the, John Henry. This is a new tool that's come along, and if you use it that way, that's how you're going to be, using it. Ilverno Bay says, I've already integrated AI tools into my track creation and publishing process, and I love it. Yeah, I get that. I probably won't use them as much because it's like Splice in Arcade. I used Arcade for a while until I felt like I was just using other people's music. And that's not how I roll as a composer. I have to, originality is kind of one of my things. I need to be original from my brain and not from someone else's brain. But I get it, even if you need to. Signature music in the house. Eric, even Audacity has it now. Oh, good. So Mr. Reynolds says, yep, pennies add up, as my other half always says. Yeah, they do. And I think eventually, like I said, I think that pennies will add up in this. I think this will become another penny business, just like stock has always been for us, pennies or questions. And I'm actually even working on a new module for the stock market, which is my ebook, and I also have a course on how to get into the stock market. It covers every single stock music library that I'm in, and also some that I'm not. And I have another one I'm going to be putting up here, another module for it called Music versus AI, that may include some of this, but it's also going to take a look at some of the music AI softwares and things, and just take stock, so to speak, of what stock music sites are doing with AI and how they're trying to use it. They're already using it. They're already giving you the chance to prompt it and try to give you what they want. Right now, they're just prompting you to give stuff where you can then eventually get to the videos or the songs or whatever that you want. I think eventually it will actually make them on the spot with its own AI engines. And if it does, and it uses your music to train with, then we should all make income. So I think stock music might have a life still and not be completely lost. And that's my thought. These are my thoughts, which are mine. All right, let's talk about sync licensing. And this is going to be a little bit shorter because I don't think sync licensing will be as effective. I know my owner of one of my libraries, he's very interested in figuring out ways to use AI in the music. But I think the library owners aren't who I'm concerned with. Even the listeners of TV and film, I'm not concerned with. What I'm concerned with is the person who really makes the decisions in music licensing for film and for television. And that is the music supervisors. They are the ones who are really making the actual decisions here. And they, as of now, and for the past few years, have really wanted authentic songs. They want authenticity. They are not really interested in anything that you programmed. They are way more interested in real flesh and blood artists. And this came way before the AI debacle, the AI whole, we're all worried about it, the zeitgeist that is AI now. This is way before this. Ever since I've been involved with sync and been taught about what music supervisors are looking for, it has been about authenticity. It's been about real songs by real people. They love these kind of songs. And for that reason, I think that they are not necessarily, if they hear the little hint that it might be AI, and a lot of times if they hear it's too programmed. That's why I think stock music and sync licensing music kind of like have a barrier between them, because there's a different level for movies and for TV and film than there is on the stock side. And I think we all know that. And I think that's why that your first defense against AI, especially if you're going to be working in the sync world, is to be human, because that is what the music supervisors and the sync agents are looking for. They're looking for human artists that are human and odd and weird. And they're unique, and they're They're an actual flesh and blood person. And I think that's why sync licensing is not going to be as affected by this right away. Now, there will likely be some background music and stuff that's used for TV and film that people end up creating, or music supervisors. There could be a fourth reason. The first reason they use music is because they want to find an artist that they love and they go get music. Second one is they go to a sync agent to find artist music. The third level of where they go is to sync libraries and find some libraries that they can trust and have good music. And then maybe a fourth level down the road will be these kind of high-end AI-made tracks and background music and things like that. But since they are we've only heard over and over in the world of sync licensing that people are looking for real artists. They're looking for real songs with vocals and all that kind of stuff. And yes, I know AI can do vocals. I'm just saying music supervisors are tough. And there might be a trend or a science fiction movie where they want a sound like that. But I think for most things that were made in the 70s, there were so many shows that are based in the 50s, the 40s, the 1800s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. They're not going to be looking for AI sounding music for those things. They're going to be looking for actual good sounding stuff. And I doubt that music supervisors are going to say, yeah, just give me whatever AI thing. I mean, they won't even, there's people that say, oh, you've got to be exclusive with blah, 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 blah. There's that whole argument. You think they're just going to take some kind of AI made thing and put it in their programs? There's no way. At least not right now, at least not where AI is. And I still think that's going to be a long time coming, personally. That's why I've always thought about sync licensing and AI. And speaking of sync licensing, I am working on an ebook or a course. I have an ebook now called Getting in Sync, and it's going to talk about the whole way I got in sync. I don't think there's any thoughts about putting AI information in this book, but or the course. But the course will be coming out in like a week. I've got the intro started, and so that will be something to look forward to. Make sure you like this video and you subscribe to this channel, because that new course is coming. It's going to be a whole new way. There's going to be a whole new way to take those courses and also get some one-on-one teaching with me in a class type setting. So make sure you subscribe and like the channel if you're interested in that kind of thing. Now, let me take a little minute to talk about my personal music and AI and where I feel things are. I have made a decision this week. And again, you might think this is reactionary. You might think that I am being, Eric really is scared of AI. But I did decide to take out all of my serious music or my personal music, my artist type music, you might say. And I decided to take all of that down from Pond 5. Previously to this week, I had a kind of anything that is non-exclusive goes in the non-exclusive libraries, even my personal music. But with all this training going on, I think there's a lot of music that I don't care if they train off of. I have a lot of music that is based on older songs, public domain songs and things like that. There's a lot of arrangements I've done. There's of hymns and different things. There's a lot of music I've made specifically for stock music, which is very stock music-y, if you will. And those were fun to make, but they're not my artist stuff. They're not the stuff I wake up in the morning and go to the piano and have to figure out and compose. They're my serious compositions, my composer stuff, the stuff that I hope outlives me and is played on stages by people. All that stuff I'm taking out of any kind of library, unless it's an exclusive library. But even that, I think I'm just keeping all those for myself and for my artist side and for my online side. And so that's what I am doing. Sorry, a cat was trying to do something over there. I don't know what she's doing. But I'm taking my serious music out of stock. I don't want it to be used for AI training. And we all have that right. We all have that ability to not have our music used for AI learning. You can let some be used and maybe make some money that way. or you can choose not to. And I have chosen that just for my classical work or my pop and jazz and stuff that I've put out as artist type work, my solo piano work, all that stuff is coming down out of the engines. And I am now just going to be focusing on it as something to that's my own music. It's not for anybody else's use. It's not for AI's use. And I think I would suggest to you, if you have music that you put in different categories like that, and you have a category of just personal music, I would suggest you do that too, because other non-exclusive stuff I just don't care about. I may not even make that kind of music anymore. But as you know, when you're a creator, things just happen. You're messing around, and all of a sudden you decide, hey, I'm going to mess with this. And so I'm kind of like that with this. I will make some stuff that's non-exclusive, which I don't think of as artist music, but there is some stuff that is definitely artist music, and I have to use it. I also want to say about my personal compositions that my composition does not depend on computers. I've even thought about, disengaging from that to really focus on the music more and the technology less. If the lights went out tomorrow, I'd still be composing on my piano, or maybe even on paper. I'd be working with other humans. We're going to talk about this in a minute when we talk to Chad GiPiT, because you'll be surprised at some of his comments. But you work with other humans, with their voices, with their acoustic instruments, all that stuff. If the lights went out tomorrow, we could still make music and nobody would be able to stop us. And guess what? You still can. No one is stopping you now. Go make music that if you're freaked out about AI, get off the freaking net and make it yourself with, tape, or unplug your computer so it can't be on the internet, and make your thing and put it wherever you want to. You don't have to hide. Let's see what people are saying about some of this stuff. I have one more thing to say before we talk to Mr. Chad GiPiT. But Rob Green says, AI schmai. For real. Richard Erickson says, I think if people have to worry about the AI, no, because you need someone who is a mixing engineer, someone who is musically talented, someone who works in meta. Most people are lazy. Yeah, to be truthful, Ricard, I agree with you that people are lazy. I think people have been using a lot of these programs, these splice programs, these arcade programs, these programs that make music for you, easy keys, easy bass, all this stuff. And I have clients using these, and I'm not disparaging them. Or if you use loops and things to create your beats and things, I get it. But at the same time, I think that we are a little over dependent on some of this, Ricard. And I think we have to not be so dependent. And we do need to get out and play with others. I made my biggest leap in working, in becoming a better musician and producer and composer, even when I got out of my little cave, this little cave I'm in. My last cave didn't have windows. It was downstairs, and my other studios have been in darker rooms, and we all get in our little laboratories, and we're making our stuff, and we're doing our science, and it's all that we're doing is making our own music. And I think sometimes we finally got to get out and work with other people, work with engineers, work with other players, work with other singers. And this is stuff that I think people are turning to AI to do instead of actually getting out and doing stuff. And I do think it becomes a bit of laziness. Ms. Reynolds says, have you seen more data sets since the first time being used? If you're talking about Pond 5, no, I haven't seen any more data set payment. Although I think that happened about last April. So maybe it's a yearly thing. We wondered when Pond 5 paid us to use our music for AI, if it was going to be a monthly thing, if it was going to be every 6 months, if it was going to be every year. I guess we'll find out if it's going to be every year. Battery-powered recorder. There you go. Get batteries, like Rob says, and run all your stuff, and don't let AI in. All right, very good. So let's get back here, and I'm just about finished. I want to just do talk about one last thing that I think can help you if you feel at all, I won't say scared anymore, but if you feel all concerned about AI and how it might affect you, here's something that you can do. If you are ready to move to the next level, and this is not a sales pitch, this is just a life pitch. Skills and education are something that you might want to think about. This is something that I think that most people seem to, and I know because I did, they seem to eschew this and or run away from learning new skill, going back to school, learning traditional music. But I have to tell you, going back and getting finishing up my bachelor's and then going and getting a master's has been a total new ballgame for me. And it's another reason why I have no fear of AI. Like I said, I can just write music. AI can't affect me at my piano with with a pen and paper. And this is something that I can do more now because I always wrote down lyrics and stuff on paper, but I didn't really do much writing down of music on paper. And I didn't really think much in the traditional way until I went back to school and eventually worked on my master's in composition and took orchestration and all that kind of stuff. Read books. There's these things called books. And read books about all of these stuff, about the great composers, about all of these things. These are ways that you can become smarter and really a better machine than AI can be. Because you can take all that you know and all that you love about music, and maybe you're like me, you've done music away from the classical world for a long time. But then when you marry that with real music knowledge, real music theory, real music history, real music composition, real music orchestration knowledge, you become the next level of you. You become the next level human musician that AI can never be. And so that's one thing that I would say to all of you. And if you agree with this, give me a thumbs up, because I really feel like this is an important thing. I think this is something, skills, learning new skills, taking classes, going to your local university, take a music theory course, go back to school in music composition. It may at first seem like, oh, I don't want to write that old music. Well, then don't write old music. Modern music composition courses are using synthesizers, and they're using different methods of composition that they're using electronic instruments and electric instruments and real bass players and drummers. And it's different than what you think. You think, oh, composition means I have to write Bach. No, it doesn't. You probably need to understand Bach. You need to understand basic orchestral and orchestration principles. But it's not that. I just think having real skills that exist outside of the world of computers. And I think that's one problem with free DAWs that come with everything you buy, and you get into the DAW world. And I'm teaching DAWs right now. I'm teaching Pro Tools right now. But having skill outside of the world of DAWs and computers, I think can provide you with, because it does me, provide you with peace against this coming threat of AI and it making music. I think also the possibility of correct payment and the likelihood of correct payment, especially if you know the history of music recordings and even going back into sheet music and how music has been made, all of that had to be eventual. We had to eventually get to the place where the phonograph made money and paid artists and paid record labels. I mean, there weren't record labels until the invention of the phonograph, until about 1900. And then when the, cassette came along, they had to figure out how is that going to work alongside this. When the MP3 especially came along, there was a whole thing. I was part of it. I was putting my stuff up on mp3.com in 1999. And had a big hit there, by the way. And I actually was part of the when they took that public, I was part of that sale and made some money at mp3.com. But all that said, it took a while for MP3s, and it took until Steve Jobs did it with iTunes, till it actually became something that paid correctly and could be a likelihood of income. Streaming was the same way. There was no streaming income until Spotify kind of codified that for good or better. And Apple and Amazon and all the places now have figured out how to get that music to that money that you make. Or maybe some genius will figure it out. I'll tell you, labels are going to figure it out. They're going to figure out how to make money from AI. And or some unknown genius like Steve Jobs or Spotify or Jack Conte, who invented Patreon. Somebody is going to figure this out. Somebody's going to figure out how to use AI in maybe the stock music engines, or maybe for artists to make money with their own AI creations. And if it's probably already happening, to be honest with you. I'm actually making money with AI created stuff that I use these tools for from my clients. It's happening already. So it kind of goes back to maybe this could be a tool for us. So finally, before we end today, I want to just get a little music versus AI advice from our old friend, Chad GiPiT, I think is the way you say his last name. Now, Chad, as you may know, is quite close to the source when it comes to AI technology. And I asked Chad this question. I said, what is a good word of advice for music makers who feel intimidated by and in the face of AI music making capabilities? And he said a good word of advice is to remember that technology is a tool, not a replacement for creative and human expression. While AI can generate music and assist in creative process, it lacks the depth of emotion, personal experience, and unique perspective that human creators bring to their work. So I think, first of all, this sounds just like what a computer would say, an evil AI force. But embrace the collaboration is the first thing that he says here. And let me say that a little clearer. Embrace the collaboration with others. Get out and play with others. I already talked about this today. Instead of viewing AI as a threat, consider it as a collaborator, or don't use it and go collaborate with humans. They exist. Again, we live too much on the internet. We live too much in chat rooms. We live too much. COVID drove us indoors, and it has changed the way that we work on our music. And we're now so reliant on Splice and on FL Studio and on Logic to make stuff. His second piece of advice is focus on your strengths. Recognize and cultivate the aspects of music making where you excel. Whether you're a great composer of melody, whether you craft lyrics or perform on an instrument. Listen, AI is not going to take over for you if you are a fantastic piano player, if you're a fantastic guitar player, if you're a fantastic fiddle player. I don't care what you play. AI is not going to be able to be the human player that you are. There's no way AI can copy my individual strengths, my unique background in music making, music marketing, working with artists, working with Nashville people, teaching now, all the education that I have. It can't copy all of that at once. You can't put that into an algorithm and feed it into a computer and then come back with Eric Copeland. It's just not going to happen. He thirdly says, experiment and innovate. This is how I think we differ mostly from AI. Explore how AI tech can expand your creative possibilities. Experiment with different AI tools. Yeah, maybe. But you can also just forget about AI tech. Experiment with music in ways that you haven't done before. AI doesn't experiment. AI just takes what you say and gives you something. It takes from whatever data it has and it gives you something. So be human, be an experimenter, be a scientist, and do your thing. Forge into new areas. Try new things. Wake up out of a dead sleep and just go to the piano and push out notes onto the piano. Make, innovate. This is something that AI does not do. It just repeats previous knowledge it finds in other places. He also says to stay true to yourself. Remember that authenticity and originality are essential to music. Don't be pressured to conform to trends like AI. just because it's popular or it's in the news or whatever. Stay true to your unique voice, perspective, and creative instincts. You be you. Just be you, because you're the only one who can be you. No AI can be you. It can make a version of you if you enter the right things, possibly. I don't even think it does that very well. Learn and adapt. I wish I'd thought of that. Stay informed about advancements in AI music and but here's what he says. Continuously learn new skills, techniques, and tools to adapt to changing trends and remain competitive in the evolving landscape of music making. This is just standard great advice. I already talked about the importance of study and training, and you grow by doing more and by learning more and by having more experiences. You in some ways are an AI. You take everything that happens to you and everything you learn and you meld that into a final answer. So you're not necessarily competing. Listen, we've been competing with people for years. You've been competing with other people in stock music. There's millions of people you're competing with to make music and sell it. And so this is just adding to the pile. Bring it on. You know, if you were brave enough before you heard of AI to make music in the face of all the other people that make music out there and that are out there on Spotify and on Pond 5 and everything, then you'll be brave enough to make it in the face of AI adding to the pile of competition. And finally, Chad says collaborate with musicians. And I've already talked about this. I think working with humans, not machines, is where you'll find more original ideas. And blending of you and someone else is amazing. And finally, Chad says, ultimately, remember that music making is a deeply personal and human experience. While AI may offer new opportunities and challenges, it can never replace the creativity, emotion, and artistry that defines the human musical experience. So that's what Chad has to say about this. I think it's pretty good, pretty smart, and pretty much what I was talking about. And so let me see if I've got any last thoughts here in the chat. Ron is in the house. Hi, Ron. How you doing? So yeah, boom is right. That is pretty much the final word. Be yourself. Embrace the human musical experience. I can't say it any better than that. So I hope my words and Chad's words have helped you today find some solace in this whole thing. And remember that the Make Music Income podcast, remember to take the poll that I've got down there, and make sure to check out our website for free and helpful information. I always got free stuff on there, including ebooks, courses, and one-on-one coaching for your music career. You can find that at makemusicincome.com. Remember the Ultimate Composers Mastermind. You'll also find that in the description. If you're interested, go look at that and email me personally, and let's talk about your possibility of being in that. If you are listening to the podcast, there will be music that you might be hearing, and there'll be links about that. I really hope you got some valuable information out of this and some tips on making the music you love and making music income in spite of the great threat, of the great evil of AI. I don't think it's evil. And I hope this has helped today. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks so much. Have a good week. Bye-bye.